May. No,
I
it's
think
not
it's
May.
Wednesday.
It's April.
It's April.
Wednesday, April
But it is
29th.
Wednesday.
It is Wednesday. Well,
Cool.
so I get a point for at least getting the day right. And we're talking about, so I've never used Twine before, but I'm actually really excited to see this because this is something that I probably should have done when I taught game design in my computer science class, and I just never did, regretfully. So I'm really excited to. No, I'm not sure it's Wednesday, chat. I'm really excited to watch this and see how this all works and learn a little bit about it. Why don't you set this up for us, Steve?
I will, but I have something weird going on with my sound. I gotta figure that out first.
We can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's like I have some weird window on this computer that's making me hear everything twice. It's freaking me out.
Oh, yeah, that's messed up.
See, I just heard you say, yeah, that's messed up twice. Let's see.
Nice.
Let's try to get this one. Sorry. It's all bad. I think I'm almost there. No, that's not the good one. Sorry.
Hey, how about while Steve is figuring out his audio, we talk to Carson.
Hi.
Hey, Carson, how's it going, man?
Hey, good.
Welcome back. You were with us. What were we talking about? Game Maker.
Yeah. I did a Game Maker thing. That was really fun, actually. I really liked that.
Awesome.
This is sort of in the same thing where you spend not sorry if you can hear my school in the background. You can spend a little amount of time and make something really like surprisingly robust and cool. And I think that this is the most like brutal example of that because it's literally just like you just kind of are writing something and then you can release it pretty quickly and you can export it and get people's feedback on it. And there's a surprising amount of people who like really pay attention to what you can do. And like I sort of can't believe how well my stuff went. It's still, I think, one of the most successful things that I've done, which is weird. And it's just really fun to sort of get in it and try and see what you can make.
Basically, now I'm back with normal audio thing. It was crazy. I had another window open with the same thing. But what you're talking about, Carson, I totally get because first of all, interactive fiction is huge. I mean, there are these huge contests around the world for interactive fiction. There are a number of platforms that you could create interactive fiction with. I have my students explore something called choice games, and that's another environment where they make their own like choice-based adventure games with all sorts of depth behind them, but they also have a scripting language behind it. Twine was built completely. That's all right. Twine was built completely for text-based adventures or this, kind of path-driven thing. So we're going to show you that whole idea. And the neat thing is too, the environment that you're writing it in can also be like your brainstorming area because you can write the story and do all your mapping and then connect everything the way you need to. So it takes away from the idea with some things where you feel like you have to write everything outside of the environment, which is kind of cool. And I've had kids have great success. I love, my big thing is when my kids create games, I love for them to have an opportunity to publish them out and get feedback, like Carson was saying. And then when you, as a student or as anybody, when you start showing your, seeing your game get like 100 plays, 1,000 plays, it it really is exciting to know you actually have an audience that's like watching and listening. So
I remember we were talking and it just got taken down a couple years ago, but there used to be this bot called Philum.law, and it was like a really cool place to host your stories. And I remember it would show you the amount of plays that everyone had. And I think when I first hit 500, that was like, that was crazy. Because I think I got 100 and I was like, huh. And then I got like to 250 because there was a group that went on Twitter that would just sort of upload what they would have, like, so would upload the things that they've made from Philum, and then they would sort of play everybody else's games. And I sort of became like the standout, like everybody would play made when I did stuff, and people were always asking me questions about things and trying to connect stuff. Like I never put too much thought into what I was doing, but people like really looked for like a connection between like this sort of like shared universe that a lot of
That's neat. Now, question for you too, Carson. Are you one who tends to like writing? Like if you were given an assignment in school to write a 20-page paper, would you be real excited about that?
It depends what it was on. And it depends like sometimes not all the time. Sometimes I just feel really inspired by it. Like I have a whole like thing on Google Drive of like video essays that I've written about like games or sports or whatever that like I don't think I'll ever like produce because like I don't really make video essays, but sometimes I will. I think so. It just depends how and what.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so this was a cool way. I kind of thought of it a lot more as like a video game tool than anything.
Sure, absolutely. But it's kind of neat that but everything behind it is
the
writing.
other stuff that and I mean like I have the one time that I've used it recently was when a friend of mine who goes to Champlain wanted to get into it and she wanted to sort of learn some stuff and knew that I was in the scene for a while and was like, okay, you got to teach me how to do all this.
Yeah.
And she was really into writing and had like not books but like journals or whatever that she would publish and wanted to kind of make them more interactive. And it was interesting seeing somebody go from that path instead of like I want to make a video game sort of.
And that's the thing too is I've had students who once they got into this were like, oh, this is my fit, and these are people that might not necessarily have been so into some of the other platforms we've used and stuff, and then they find their home. I want to go to my screen for a minute and show. We talked the other day a little bit about Zork, which is a classic, but I want to show it to you in a different environment today.
God, that throws me back.
This site that I'm on is textadventures.co.uk.
Yep. Oh my God.
We'll drop that into the chat. So this site, which is so great, it's a very easy place to publish your work. So I have students who have work published here. And again, that gives people the opportunity to play it. It also, as a teacher, gives me a very easy opportunity to share their games out because once it's up here, it's like there. You can also publish your games because it's really just an HTML file. So you can put them on like Google Drive or OneDrive, and there's just sometimes a little quirky text you have to do to link to them, but you can link them from a shared place like that. But here's Zork. Zork is our classic text adventure game. If you were with us the other day, we dabbled with it a little bit.
Oh my God. I haven't seen some of this stuff in years. Oh my God.
So the other day we saw it just in a different environment, but a lot of people have put the full game online. Now this was a game that defined my childhood with my Apple II Plus, sitting, playing.
Wow.
Like this is probably one of the first real games I really got into. And before we started talking, before the stream, Carson and I were reminiscing about the way this game got you to be immersed in a world, that you were only reading about. So in other words, the power of storytelling, which is what our theme is this week, is very apparent in this game because they just give you good enough visual descriptions that make you transport yourself, into this world.
And it was trying to piece it all together is what sort of blew me away. Like I would get to somewhere. I remember like the first time that I got to the dam rivers and stuff and had to control the water, and I could never figure out how to get back there. And I was like, but I want to go because like that just. I remember the first time that I got there and like it was a big deal to try and go back and recreate my steps that I'd use.
Right.
And all the secrets and stuff. Like it's so funny you mentioning having played it back in the day because but when I played it there was like the internet, so I could kind of Google all the secrets, and like I remember like I yelled like Odysseus at the Cyclops and just like killed it in one thing instead of having to do the whole puzzle.
Yeah, I didn't have the joy of going through
and not having any of that. I would not have the patience to sit there and be
right.
Like,
well, we did. I think somebody the other day gave us the original name too. But anyway, so here we start out west of the house. We're going to go through this a little because it'll really kind of give you a sense of what we're talking about today. This is open house. Now, the other day, Mike, remember we looked in the mailbox. We looked mailbox, or maybe we opened the mailbox. Open mailbox. Oops, open mailbox. And we found a leaflet. We took the leaflet. And then I believe we read the leaflet.
Mm.
And we didn't go too much further the other day. But the, oh, interesting. Okay. So now, and this is like, there's, I go into a lot of things here, but I'll hold off. So I can go in different directions. So I believe if I go west, I'm in the forest. Now, the funny thing about this is now when I go east, we discovered this the other day, it didn't necessarily bring me back to the exact same place, which is interesting from a standpoint of most people who play this game start to map it out on paper and then realize there's some points where you have to finagle that a little. But there is a tree. Let's climb the tree. What do you mean, the tree or the large tree?
This is okay.
One particularly large tree with some lows. All right, climb. That's weird. I don't remember.
There's a whole world. There's this one guy actually who used to do games like this, but they were spoken. I can
Right. I have that.
Yes. Jared Sorensen. It's funny. One of my friends just sent me like the actual paper for it.
Yes.
I have to bring that up at one point. Yeah.
So what he did was he created these pamphlets, right, and does these as like a party game. Yeah. I bought his book at PAX last year, and it gives you this experience. It's called Parsley.
Yeah.
So with Parsley, I could sit here and we could do that one day just for fun.
That'd be so much fun. I love that.
And one of you is the computer parser, and the other people are playing the game by saying stuff to you, and you then advance in the game based on what they say. So it's a really interesting take on this.
But I was just remembering that because Jungle Adventure, which was the second one that he did the same thing where you would end up getting lost in the jungle if you didn't know the exact right combination of things. And I think on the actual paper it tells you like if they don't go left, up, down or whatever, like, don't like let them go anywhere. Or then I think at one point you got a compass that cleared everything up. But whenever I go to that forest, I think of the Jungle Adventure thing. It was the same sort of like I don't want to say that he just like lifted it from Zork, but it was a pretty, like, if you were trying to map it out in your head, you would immediately lose it because there was a certain combination you'd have to enter.
Yeah.
And I think this is the same way where there's like somewhere I saw a whole guide to the Zork Forest and how it actually works. But like back in the day,
there is a map you can look at, I think, too. But so here we go. We found the large egg. That's definitely a good start. I hope we don't accidentally break the egg. I'm going to go down now. And I'm going to go, let's say, south. Clearing, we're in a clearing. There's a pile of leaves. Ooh, let's move the leaves. Wow. The grating appears on the ground. Can we open the grating? Oh, darn it. So I think we need something here.
It's almost like he knows how to play Zork.
It's so weird how much you remember and forget after you play.
Exactly.
It's almost like thinking back to like a weird like childhood memory where you think you know some things and you're like, okay, maybe it was like it was in the middle of the summer. I don't remember where I was when that happened. Like it's like you just like, and it's kind of like a good book where like everybody remembers how things look differently. Like I'm sure like if I like tried to render out like the canyon or the rocky ledge is like a 3D scene, like it would be totally different.
Yeah, well, this is funny too because most of the times when I play, one of the first things you probably should do is go into the house, and we've totally avoided the house so far. You're at a ledge halfway up the wall of the river canyon. You can see from here that the main flow from Argane Falls twists along a passage, what is possible to enter. Below you is the canyon bottom. Above is more cliff. Let's keep going down.
And what I think is really cool about the house and the outside part of everything is that people usually it's such an easy way to teach people how to play your game without like risk or like blowing them away. Like I feel like if this started with like the dam or the Cyclops or like the crazy stuff that happens once you go underground, like the mines with the I don't remember if they were mines, but like the towers with the mine carts or whatever, people would immediately be lost. And so like easing them in with like stuff that they already know how it looks instead of having to describe this crazy like underground alien landscape, it warms you up to the mechanics and how to actually navigate and kind of the tricks that it'll play before you're like actually like have to pay attention to things. Like once they introduce the robber, like you've already sort of understood everything else before that.
Right.
Saying that gave me chills because I remember like the first time that something got stolen from me and I was like, what happened? Did it glitch out? Did the code screw up? What happened? And then I Google it. I'm like, no, there's like a guy who steals your stuff who runs around the map.
Right. There's also so much weird stuff. Like for people who aren't used to this, the idea of this noun verb thing takes a little while to get used to, but it makes sense. But so now let's go into Twine because you get the idea. I do strongly encourage you all play Zork. It's your homework. But here's Twine. I got a cork board in front of me and stuff. And Twine basically, just to give you a little visual, this is what the visual would look like for a certain game. So it's like, in other words, it's basically you're creating the different choice paths and ultimately going to connect them, and that's going to be the game. So you can either download it or play it right online. So we're going to just play it online or create online. So I started a fun story yesterday called "The Pig and the Chicken," but we'll start a new story here, and let's go through this together, kind of like we did the other day. And I'm not looking at the chat right now. Let me take a look. Mike, if you could monitor the chat, maybe people will help us come up with ideas. But what do we want to name our story, or do we have an idea for a story?
I almost want to do a non-verbiage recreation of Zork, like with links instead of.
Okay.
but if we pick the area that like
how about Zork reimagined?
Yeah.
All right. So there's
the one important thing that I'll say here. If you go back to the home real quick.
In Zork.
No.
Go
back to Twine home. Yeah. So if you go to formats on the right.
Go back to here. Okay,
yep.
Got it.
Yeah. Go over to formats.
Okay.
I am on. There was one that I was on last night that I hadn't really used before. I think it might have been. It wasn't Chapbook. Hold on. I need to see which one I'm on.
So just to while Carson's looking at that. So this is the thing. So when you start,
I'm on Snowman.
It looks like. Well, here. Let me show you what. This is the game I started yesterday. So this is my pig and the chicken game. If I go to play the game, I started with, this is the very basic format. So just to show you how Twine works, I have this little story.
This stuff in years.
I can go toward the sound of the squeal or toward the sound of a chicken, and then it brings me to the next part, and then the story advances. I can always go back. What Carson was saying is that we can choose for our game. We can choose the format. And which one did you say?
Sugar Cube. No, sorry. Snowman's the one that I'm on.
The first one, or I guess.
You can do Snowman too. Yeah.
Okay, Snowman 2.
About these, a couple of them have different ways of sort of presenting what they do. So like the one, I think it was Harlow that you were just in, gives you a back button, and I was really against the back button.
I'm against it also.
And they also when you go to actually format your story, like using the CSS is different in all of them, and so you can change font and color and do some really.
So I would want to change. Let's say I go back to my first one. I can change the format for this one, and let's go to Snowman
and
just
you can do it specifically. Yeah, I kind of did one and everything. There's also one that has like a save bar, so you can actually, if you do something really huge, you can like save it in your browser.
That's great too, and that's a thing too.
I don't remember which one it was, but I totally should. Maybe you've had it. I don't remember. But
you also have the ability to do your own scripting too, so you can get really deep with this. But what I like, and what Carson was pointing out, is now we don't have the back button, which is kind of like cheating. Like we might as well always have to go based on what the author wants us to do. So there we go again. Let's go back. Zork reimagined. Now for this one, did we? Oh, see, that's funny because it was weird. We did the formats before, but I think it's better if once you're in the game. If you go down
you could do it. Yeah, you could do it. You could do it story based too.
And look at this. You can edit the JavaScript. You can edit the style sheet. You can edit the format. So we're just going to start with the basic. Go with our Snowman format.
Yeah, Snowman's really good if you want to get started with CSS. Going back to what, like I tried a lot of my old style sheets. I put some serious effort into some of them. And I tried a lot of them with other formats when I knew that I was going to be talking about this, and they only worked in Snowman, which is weird because I don't remember that happening. But the cool thing about learning CSS and JavaScript for this is that if you don't know web design already and you just do it for Twine, you'll sort of making actual websites will kind of come second nature to you. So you're kind of like setting yourself up to be able to make full websites if you learn Twine CSS. Which was really cool because I kind of went from just doing this to like being able to make sites for like other things. which was very fun.
Right.
So yeah, it's like I would make mailbox a link.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so this is the basic, like, let's just say we go with this kind of Zorky idea. So to the north is the house, to the west is the field, blah, blah, blah. So now the interesting thing is if, so here's what I've got. Let's just go into it for a second. So if I were to go to play, there's at least my game so far. Now, I did not do any linking yet. So there are a couple of things here that we could consider. One is I can add new passages, right? So let's say we know that we're going to have the east one. No, not there. We give it a name here, like east, or how about, you know, forest entrance. Okay, we're going to add that one. Don't care about that right now.
Yep. Yeah, it's weird how friendly its UI is. Like I found myself trying to hit like Control S or like save certain things. I kind of forgot that I could just click off of something and have it save automatically. It was weird getting back into how sort of workflow oriented it is.
So here's the house, right? We'll call this the front door. And we'll add another passage here to the, what do we call that, a clearing to the west?
Yeah, I think so.
And we'll just add the mailbox here. Whoops. There it goes. So that's the start. Okay.
Oh, the other thing that I mentioned is that for uses of it, like outside of actually making just regular stories, that there was a game recently, I want to say it was either Detroit Become Human, actually I think it was Detroit Become Human, where they would make the scripts for the voice actors in Twine. So when a voice actor went to go read a line, they would actually be clicking through on their phone instead of having a giant stack of a million papers in front of them. And I think that there are a couple different narrative games, like really huge AAA, big budget, like when you get 1,000 voice actors and there's, you know, a million things that could happen. I think they did it this way.
It's a great prototyping tool. You know, it's great for prototyping any game, really. But the fact that it could become the whole game is good too. So now, when I go into here, basically each of these titles are going to indicate the link that I can go to, right? So real simply, and I think this is the way you do it. If I go, let's see, go, well, north, right, is what we said was the house, let's say, and then we do boom, boom, and then I think we called it house entrance. If not, we can change that. And this right here is what's going to say the text in the game is going to be north. And where it's going to take us to is the title for that one. So let's say, see if I even have that right. Nope, it's front door. See, so what it did do though,
it went there, yeah.
It added that for me. So that's another little trick.
I never first. I made when I worked on it, and this is, I guess, was just sort of for what I did. I never tried to, like, I never planned my stuff out in advance. Like, I would just kind of start and then see where it took me, which is something that you can't really do. Like, I learned pretty quickly that you can't do that with other games.
Right.
But
and that's a good point because, in other words, in this way that I'm doing it now, I feel like I'm creating the story before I worry about the linking. But you could do it either way. It's similar.
So I kind of did it at the same time. So like when you said north, like I would the word in the text north a link.
That's a good idea too. So here we go. So now here's the game with its first thing. So to the west is a field, to the east is the opening of the forest, in front of you is a mailbox. Boom. So now at least that much is working. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we can continue here, and you could also, I mean, gosh, you can copy and paste these if you want. I'm going to now add my second one, and let's say one of them was the mailbox, or let's say open mailbox, and we'll call this mailbox. Okay, and I'm starting to build out the paths for this game. Hopefully I'm doing it right with what I'm calling these, and I am. And if I did it right, it automatically connects them. So that's just by the title. Now, the important thing, like with any kind of programming or game making environment, is make sure that your titles make sense and have a sort of a a naming convention like we would in another game. Now, what Carson was saying a second ago is he might just say north. I was a little leery about saying just north because I might go north a million times in the game. So if we label everything, that might help.
In the chat, they're saying if you I think if you put a space between the name of the link and the arrow key and press space, it gives a drop down of the passages already made to link quick.
Wait, let me say that again. Say that again.
It gives you a little smart thing if you hit space after the
Okay, so what was one of them? West?
When you're going to link to something, it'll give you like a smart thing. So if you do
look at that. You smart people. But now, okay, so that's interesting because that right now, so forest entrance, front door, didn't I have something for west? Clearing. But why didn't it give me clearing?
I don't know. I guess you can probably scroll through it with your mouse wheel.
Oh, am I missing? No, isn't that weird?
No, that's bizarre. Okay, never mind then.
All right, let's see what happens if I actually add it. Clearing. Oh, that's very odd.
Yeah, it'll still show up, but I guess it only shows.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, it might only show ones that are linked to that it considers like in the game. I don't know.
Oh, but look at that. That's not right. Wait, what did it not like about this? I bet there's something about this. Clearing. Clearing. I'm purple. Let's see. Let's try that again.
It's not linked. There's no arrow key going.
No, I know because that's what this part would do, in theory. But see, interestingly, all right, front. Oh, you know what? It's only ones that are already linked.
Yeah.
No, but forest entrance showed up.
I don't know.
Let's delete this. Let's delete clearing, and let's add a new passage called "How about clearing?" It's
what
possible.
I used to do for the labels is I would like put links like mid sentence. So
that's so weird.
For passages always ended up being really long because it would be like you would click like the middle of a sentence and like the entire like block of whatever you were saying would be a link, and then that just got really crazy.
So the weird thing is it did work that time to go to clearing, but like if I try to go to forest entrance, let's say east, forest entrance does show up. So I don't really know why it was doing that, but I like that. And who gave us that hint? And I thank you.
Steam Cultivator.
All right, Becky. Good job. All right, so here we go. So now we've got our, our start structure to the game. So I can open the mailbox. Now we would have to define what happens in the mailbox. So I might kick it over, like, in other words, at this point, did you say that you did kind of get into a little bit back to the style sheet type stuff?
Yeah, okay. I did. And I figured some of it out. It was just the format. For whatever reason, all of my code only worked in SugarCube. And I was like,
okay.
I have my actual style sheet up, so I'm just going to copy up what I was messing around with last night. So the first thing about the style sheets that's really cool is I would always, if you go to fonts.google.com,
okay,
use any fonts on there for your game. And the one that I always use, because I was an edgy middle schooler, was Shadows into Light, which is like a weird like handwritten like scribble font that was go-to for everything. So you could use that. The way that it works is they use I guess they call them identifiers. Maybe that's the right for CSS, where you basically describe the part that you're gonna access and mess with, and then you do just like real programming and opening curly braces.
Right.
So
do I start here?
So yeah, so you would start there and you would say body. You open a curly brace.
Oh, body, then the curly brace?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you hit enter.
Okay.
And you can enter a couple of times.
Okay.
And then do a curly brace there.
Okay, and then inside that I'm gonna put what I want.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, and is one of them, is it font face like it was in
it should
HTML?
be font family.
Font dash family?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so this is bringing me back to my wonderful days of HTML and CSS.
Yeah, that's what it is. And like I was saying, like I got into actual web design through this. Like once I knew how to do this, making like real websites, which was like a skill that you could use way beyond sort of the little.
Yeah, of course. And I forget the syntax, but what do I put here to?
You're gonna put a colon.
Colon.
You're gonna put whatever font you find. In,
yeah, which one? Give me one.
Well, you have to get it from the website. So if you're there.
Do I actually have to download it, or?
No, you don't have to download, but just pick something that's like it's going to be obvious if it changes, because sometimes I can't tell the difference.
All right, how about this
Yeah, go ahead.
Oswald?
Yep. So yeah, so you click on Oswald. You have to
Actually-
actually select the font, and then go to use it. Or no, add the style. So you go to select the style.
Select this style. Okay.
I did this last night. It works. Then to embed.
Oh my. Okay.
Yep. And then select the @import. Okay, no.
Or
Click.
this one. This.
See where it says nope. Go up to where it says link to the @import instead of link. Yep.
Okay. Now what?
Select that part. Yep. You
Up
don't
here?
need the style tags. You just need where it says @import URL.
Okay.
Which this seems a little crazy and complicated, but once you get into the flow of like
Mm-hmm.
just importing fonts,
So I'm
it's
actually
not
doing that
that difficult. Add it above the body tag.
above the body. Oh, I mean,
Usually
because
what I
I'm
would do-
importing the tag before I do
Yeah,
any.
you're
of this.
importing
Okay.
the font. Yeah.
The
So what
font,
I had
yeah.
is I would have a comment block where I would like sort of block everything out and be like, this is where I'm importing all my fonts. This is where I'm doing this.
And now do I type just Oswald here?
In quotation marks, yeah.
All right. I like the color coding too. So you would have a comment here to say.
I would have, yeah, and then comments are they're the same way that comments work in Game Maker. So
Is
it's
it like
slash,
this?
and then yeah, you could do // and then you could do / asterisk to start a block.
Wait,
and
so
then-
/ first or?
No, well you would do / asterisk for a
Mhm.
block, and then / yes, that makes everything into a comment block.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would do / for just one line. So that's how I would sort of organize everything.
Wait, so what would I do here? Do
To close it, you do another asterisk and then another /. So it's asterisk / to close. Yep.
Okay, so here I might just say. Wait, so what were you saying?
So
you
hit
were
enter,
saying-
and then yep, and then I would say like import fonts or whatever.
Okay, and then actually put. But that's okay, and then.
Yeah,
here
and then
you're saying-
below it, and then I would space it out and block everything out because some of these get gigantic. They get really crazy, especially if you want to do passage specific things. So like you clicked on that tag button before. If you tag a passage, don't worry about it now. You can set passage specific style sheets. So you could have one passage look completely
Okay.
different from the other ones.
So the important thing here was that I just went to the website because I wanted to import a font. Now, are there some
Yeah.
fonts that would have already been built in that I wouldn't have had to
Yeah,
import?
there are a few. I don't know what they are.
Okay,
I never use them.
I
But if
see.
you call and you should be able to do it.
So now I should be able to just close this. Now I
might need
should
a
be able to play the
I'm
game.
not sure.
Let's see.
Do test first.
Oh, look at it.
Nope,
No,
it
no,
worked.
we don't need to
Awesome.
test nothing.
Great. Yeah. So
Now
stuff
it
like
should
that.
be for the. Oh, beautiful. Okay,
Perfect.
cool.
And then you can sort of already see where this can go if you start getting really into it. I would do like characters that talk to each other and give each line and each link different. Or I do like one character would talk in links, so you'd actually have to click on the links, and that would sort of be their voice.
So if you, so, all right, so
Characters,
let's think
yep.
about that for a minute. So if I go back to edit story style sheet.
Yep.
So you're saying I might have a different font for
For links.
the links, and so
Yeah.
all right. So now that would be
So you want to hit enter again. So now it's .passage A. So it's space A.
okay.
And
Oh, because of the
then
anchor.
yep. And
Okay.
then open curly brace, close curly brace.
Yep.
So I would have
Now you're saying you would import a new font for that.
you could get a new font, or you could just change the color of it if you just want to use an example.
Okay. So what? But how? Let's see. All right, let's do that then.
I would say, whoops, go back to there. Color, colon, red, if you want to just do it. And don't do it in quotation marks.
Okay.
Fine.
All right. Let's just give it a
Yeah,
try.
so
that,
it's weird. In CSS, just the word color and then a colon changes.
now, just
don't
to let
actually-
people know what we're doing here, we're saying the anchor, right? The A.
Yeah.
A is the anchor, which is what HTML knows as for the links. So
Yeah.
we're just changing all the links, I guess, to be red.
Yeah,
right?
and
Let's
if
do it
if
that
you want to do specific ones, there are ways to sort of tag your links and tag everything. That
Okay.
gets really crazy.
So we got it.
Yeah.
And I know because I've had students do it, you can even then bring images in if you want.
Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah,
just a
you can do
static
some
image.
Cool stuff. I mean, I would invert images. I could flip them upside down and do borders and all sorts of stuff. It gets crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And-
CSS is super powerful when you actually know how to use it.
Yeah.
properly.
And what's cool is that Twine, like, it only uses the good parts of CSS. Like, when a lot of like web developers hear CSS, they think of doing those insane like div grids or like spacing things out properly, or just really you know how that goes. If you're a web person, you already sort of get the flashbacks to that, but you don't have to do any of that because the formatting is kind of already there. You're not making these insane amounts of content that have to be formatted because you're making little passages that show up on a screen. So it's only the good parts of CSS, which was fun.
It's awesome. I could totally see like, and I feel like I've read this somewhere, which is why I have this thought in my head, but of game design companies that are making like AAA games, storyboarding their game entirely in Twine prior to actually making the proper game.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you want to like focus group it or something, like if you have content that you're not sure about and you're like, let's give this to some people and see if they like the idea of where we're going with it. Like I know this, I don't know if they use Twine for it, but I know that like at Valve, when they were working on Half-Life Alyx, they originally had a story that wasn't very good, especially because Half-Life is kind of an important story to get right because a lot of people really care about it. The first story that they had was very low stakes and not great, and they kind of had it written and scripted and voice acted and the whole thing, and they brought people in to test it, and there was this huge sort of internal like hodgepodge of people like, nobody likes the story, what are we going to do? And they had all this time, or not enough time to like sort of fix it, so they had to call in some old Half-Life writers to come in and like give it actual legs and a reason for people to care. And that was like in the middle of production, and they didn't count for it, and there was this whole like catastrophe. And if they just kind of storyboarded it beforehand instead of just being, we'll kind of just make our own Half-Life story.
This seems like a really cool well. Like so I did when I was teaching, I had a game design project that was the whole year, where students made a game throughout the year, and they had a number of different assignments that they had to complete to build their game. This would have been an awesome, and I had kids storyboarding their games, but I had them using, storyboarding software or process mapping kind of software, or I had students that used like, Bristol board and literally write out their storyboard or draw it, however they wanted to do it, frankly. But this would have been a really cool way for a student to be able to do this.
Definitely the most important thing when I did it for myself was being able to make something and get feedback on it and see what people thought of it, without having to spend a ton of time. Like I feel like a lot of people who sort of get started in games sink all this time into their first thing, and they don't realize that like actually going through like shipping something and getting feedback and like having to sort of get people to play it is such a huge part. And I kind of already had that experience just by kind of, and I mean, I know it's not the same as like building an entire game, but it was sort of like I made something, people played it, they told me what they thought about it, and then I went back and did it again. And I got better as I got into it more. And that was kind of the cool thing about it, was that you could spend all this, like you could spend a ton of time, but not a ton of effort, like debugging and like doing all sorts of crazy stuff to get it to like barely work. But you can make some really crazy, cool, functional things in a couple of hours, and then get people to play them. I knocked out entire. I was in detention in middle school and wrote an entire Twine game, and that was.
Oops.
Oh, he was on a roll too.
Well, I wanted to jump in anyway, so I'll take the opportunity. I'm just thinking about it now. I mean, so I have a couple things. One is, I have my students do this as an optional activity. Welcome back. But what I also am thinking now, I might really start to have students do that. Like I do a design document, and I'm thinking about changing that completely and having the kids, instead of worrying about the design document as I have it currently, have them write their story, and one whole project is their game as a text-based adventure, and then take it and either make the game in another product, or I bet some kids would get so excited about this that I'll just let them keep going and just build it out much further. So
I haven't really thought about it in that way, but you could roadmap content with it. Like if you described, like with the Zork thing, like if you wanted to make the dam from Zork in a video game, all you have to do is just sit there and like everything that it describes add. So when it's like if they have like the purple, yellow, the red lever. I don't remember how it worked, but I remember there were different levers with different colors, and it was if you like that, you could make that in Unity in like an hour. So it's like you could describe the content that you need, and then make it. So like the big thing at the way that Champlain and a couple other colleges do it is they do these deconstructions of video games where like you sit, watch Donkey Kong for like 4 hours. And you're like, okay, so he moves left and right, he goes up and down on ladders, the barrels go this way. Because when you give stuff to a programmer, or you are a programmer, you're trying to make something, that stuff has to be super, super broken down. And you could do that where like if you describe a certain area and all the things that go into it, all you have to do is make some models for them. And like, it's not really all you have to do, but you know the process to turn it into a video game. I think it's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty lit about the idea because it's funny how I've been using it for years, but never really thought of that. And the beauty of it is, see, what I go back and forth with students on all the time from their design documents is that I need their level descriptions to be much more descriptive. Like I always say, I want to be able to close my eyes and imagine that I'm there. When they just write them in a design document, they kind of don't get to that. But I bet with the feedback they would get from using Twine, in me being like, listen, I went into the woods and I didn't get a sense at all of what this maze was going to be like, they might at least further develop it before they then create it in something else. So
yeah, especially Zork is such a good example because I played it probably 5 or 6 years ago, and like I can still see the dam and the which is so weird because like I didn't. And I guess it's what people who like are super into books are like too, like why they love certain books. But like, I read books too, and it's not the same. Like,
no, I agree.
Remember that area so well because I spent so much time. Like, how did they do? Like, it's such a weird world, but so awesome to get into. And the one thing that I'll say too, and I think I mentioned it a little bit before, is that I didn't play nearly enough Twine stuff back when I was like really into it. I didn't play a lot of stuff because I was like a creative kid and thought like, oh, it'll mess my own, like I'll lose my style if I get influenced by others, which is totally not true at all. But there's I know Anna Antharpy is really good, and I forgot the names of all of them. There was one that had the word dogs in the title that was like really cool, and did some insane stuff with CSS and had like a star field that was like generated, so you would click on certain passage and there'd be like actual like blinking stars all over the page. And stuff. It was really enchanting. Well, there are some people out there who are doing some really ridiculously amazing things. Like people spend years on some of these projects.
Steve,
can you demonstrate something? Actually, we have a request in the chat.
I saw the request. I don't know that I can demonstrate it, but
you don't know how to do it. Maybe Carson can.
Where is it?
So the question is, can you use conditionals? Like if a passage is accessed, then another passage becomes available as a choice in the story that weren't at the start. Is that too complex?
Yeah, so with JavaScript, I know that you can. I would spend a lot of time floundering around trying to do it. Let me do a quick.
So I'm guessing though that you could do any JavaScript that you could add, right? So
people do full inventory systems. Like
right, I've seen that. The other thing is, I guess you could add input type stuff. So if somebody, if you wanted them to type something in instead of clicking on a path, you could do that.
That's a little far. I don't think that you can do text input.
No.
A couple of reasons, because it doesn't have that verbiage system. I guess if you wanted, I think. If
if you scripted it all, like if you did.
Yeah, if you scripted, if you like ask for somebody's name, I think that works.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're right about that. That if you do like I think it's just the input function, right? You just call input and then the text that you want it to say, and then that
store it as a variable, and then you call that variable like by saying hello, Becky, welcome to
Zork. You can. There are people who have done that before. I was just because the stuff that I made didn't really use any of that, but there are people who have done full inventories. I did a couple of things, but what happened was I kind of got to the point where like I started making these like I was like, okay, well now that I can do like these kind of huge projects, I came up with some really just like ridiculous like gigantic projects that I never finished. But I was using some JavaScript for those, and I got into having inventories and stuff like that. There's a whole like the documentation is really, really, really good. I'm on the page right now for jQuery and for stuff like that. So you can definitely do that. I don't know enough about it, and it's been way too long. I mean, it's been 4 or 5 years for me to actually do it without breaking and like trying a couple different things, but it's totally possible. Right next to where you go to edit the style sheet, there's another button that says edit script or something.
Yeah, so go to my screen for a second, Mike, if you'd be so kind.
Yes. And you can add, the important thing is that you can add JavaScript in the passage too. So like,
Right.
I got how
So
you do it. Yeah.
Here's the Twine wiki, which is like, just a growing document of how to do things in Twine. So it does have this whole thing, like I want to add stats, RPG battles, or random events. I want to add an inventory system. I want to change all this stuff. So there's so much. And you know what I love about this kind of stuff, and this is what I love about teaching and learning, is that I don't claim to be the expert. You've heard me say that before. I want kids to have opportunities to do things. So I might give them this as a tool that they could use. What you already saw today, so we had a pretty flat looking thing, and then we said, ooh, let's change the font. So for a kid to just go out there and say, all right, that's one thing I want to do. I'm going to learn to change the font, boom, and they do it. And then, then when we get the Becky in our class who says, I want to do that, you're going to spend time now, because you're motivated, I hope, to add those things. And the conditional stuff would be getting a little deeper into JavaScript. So the potential for a kid to learn, like Carson said, web design, because style sheets are huge and actually very marketable skill to have. When you get into wanting to learn then a little deeper in the JavaScript, I mean, kids are going to learn coding because they know what they want to do in their game. And that's what I find with things like Minecraft too, is that when they want to automate something, they go to YouTube, they go somewhere else. The other thing is, because like you go to a site like textadventures.uk, and there are all these user created games that are great for motivation and for kids to get ideas, and also to then see how things were done in Twine. And like I had said, to then be able to publish here and be part of that, I need to find, I wonder if I have one of the students.
It was huge for me back when I did it. Like, it was like such a gigantic, like, I loved it. And it was such an important way of like, that was the first sort of like crowd that I kind of found and like hung out, like I talked to the people in it and like learned from other people and like shared knowledge and stuff. And that was the first time that I'd ever done that on a serious level, and it was really important to me. The one that I said that I loved was Howling Dogs. That was the one that, like, when I played that, I was like, the potential for this is ridiculous. And I think that's the one with the Starfield, where it's just.
So here's one of my student created games that was made in Twine that we actually published, so they have it up here. I don't know if this shows the stats of how many people have played it, but we can go in.
No, yeah, Philum, I wish that it was still up, because it would.
Oh, so here, they
have the full inventory. Wow, that's awesome.
To do an inventory system and stats. So in this case, they have no money, but they have this in their inventory. So they did create this. So this is a student that said, hey, I want to add that, and figured out how to do it. And let's see how I go back. And they use they have stats here. That's cool. So they really went to town in trying to develop an art.
And what's cool is that this kind of teaches you the basics of like scripting for games without having to do all the other work. Like, you can kind of figure out how to do sort of smaller things like stats and inventory, and not things that, and not get caught up in like other details, which I think is pretty cool, that you kind of can learn specific things that you want to learn. But there's definitely ways to conditionally show links. What's cool too about the Twine docs is that they're so good and so well written. And if you want to start getting into other languages, they kind of prepare you for things that are not nearly as good. So you can you learn the value of good documentation while it lasts. Yeah. Yeah, see, that's the name input with the text. Yes, that you can input that. I was thinking of more robust text stuff, but yeah, you can definitely do a little.
Look, so in this with the stats, I even did something that I gained brutality but lost finesse, and the game keeps going. So so this student really went from probably deciding on an idea to build this text story, and then really put in everything they wanted and needed. And this was created, I don't even know when this student created this, I don't remember. But I love, the idea of publishing student work here. So anyway, I'll drop the link so you can play this game in the. Actually, if I could,
Yeah,
like,
you
I'm
should
gonna drop it.
play as
I'm gonna
much of
drop
it
it
as
in private. If you could just copy and paste it into the
Yep.
comments.
Yeah, definitely play as much as you can, because I didn't, because I had the idea of like that if I played something it would kind of mess up like my own work, because I would get influenced by it, and I just had that sort of weird creative person mindset. That's not true. That's not how anything works. So I kind of wish that I had played more, and I might go back and get back into at least playing stuff with it, because it's just so it's such an awesome like community and world to be in. I'm still in like the Twitter group of people that 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 like the list that I got added to or whatever, people who publish a lot to Phelan. And I was talking to some of them last night, just like, hey, I'm going to be talking about like all the stuff that we used to do yesterday. So it was pretty cool to see all of that.
That's cool. There's a Discord community as well. There's the wiki. There's so many resources. And, you know, as I always say, people are such a great resource. So like you have that Twitter community where you kind of interact with other people that are into interactive fiction and stuff. And that's fantastic.
The other thing that's really cool that I did that I'll just throw in for 1 second is that if you really want to get into it and kind of have like a brand for it and take it seriously, making your own site and uploading your stuff to it is super easy, and that's what I would do. Is I use NeoCities, which is what I still use, which is basically just like it's like old school GeoCities. It's just pure like upload HTML files, make a website. I had a whole NeoCities site where I would have like it was like an archive of everything that I made. And it is that was really cool.
The publishing these, right? Like you could publish them somewhere like that text.co site, or you can simply, you know, even in a Google Drive or OneDrive, actually have the link there and then just point people to it, and it opens up pretty seamlessly. Yeah. And once they just click the link, they're in your game. So I agree with that 100%. You know, I just think it's, you know, I mean, I'm having some takeaways out of this today. Like I said before, the idea of having my students, I have a quest where students first play Zork and write a comprehensive review where they, you know, deconstruct and analyze the game. Then the next quest in that line is to create a prototype of their own text-based adventure. But I am very seriously thinking about moving that to something everybody does as that preliminary design, because I think it's pretty powerful.
The school that I went to didn't have anything like that, and I kind of stumbled across that on my own. So it's kind of cool to do. And the other thing that I just used it just as like sort of just to be able to write stuff that didn't really go. Like I had so many I never really published or did anything with. And to be able to sort of, it was a cool way, because like I would have never had like a regular like a diary like I wrote in like books. Like I wasn't really into that, but it's still a cool way to sort of get those types of things out, and in like a gamey sort of way. And it's kind of weird to describe it, but it's it was kind of my way of dealing with things in writing that I wouldn't have done otherwise, because I wasn't interested in doing it in any other way besides that.
And again, the opportunity to just continue to add the passages, and even if you don't link them right away, just as you're thinking it through, you know, you can start to you know, lay it out very easily. And you know, whether it be for your own sake or, you know, I mean, gosh, so many applications for this. And I like when people get more creative. Like, in other words, you know, so we were talking about Zork, and there's the typical choice-based adventure, like do, you know, this, do that. You can write a whole like sort of story that has some choice to it, doesn't necessarily have to, but it's just a nice platform.
If you share my screen for a bit, I can show you a trick that I always used to do that I loved.
Awesome.
Let me see here. Yeah. So one of the things
that
I
share your screen. Your screen isn't shared anymore.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you dropped off, I guess.
Oh shoot, sorry. Yep. Hold on. That's mine. I'm good now. Wow. Come on. I gotta pick Firefox. Good now.
Good.
Cool. All right. So what I used to do, and this was always a good trick, was I would have like a link, right? And then I would link to something like this. And then, God, just doing this, like, I remember remembering how I would do this. And then I would make another passage, right? So if you link it like this, if you just put two things around the text, it'll automatically make a passage with that goes to there.
And does it
that
call
sort
that
of helps.
passage have a link automatically also?
Yeah, it automatically creates the passage and the link.
Okay.
So it does it in the text, and that's kind of what I would do.
Okay.
And then I would say like, and that's kind of what I would do. And
But it even
what I
creates
would
the
do
title.
here
Okay.
is I would go here. Yeah, it automatically makes the title, and then I would have the text from the previous link there, but not linked anymore. So you were like going through it, and then it was listing. It was almost like a 1,000 bottles of beer on the wall situation, where it would like list everything that you've done previously, and then also up till now, which only works for certain type of game. Like it was like really weird, like conversational sort of pieces. That then you could say like, and there's a second passage here, and it was really cool for like trains of thought and like sort of larger things that you wanted to kind of go back and look at. So when you played it, it would actually, the link would kind of go, it worked better in a different format, be straight on top of each other. So the words would sort of group up and like almost look like a song verse sort of situation, where it would start really small with one link, and then it would they would just all stack on top of each other. And it kind of got to the point where like it was sort of purposely overwhelming and crazy. Sit there and play it for 5-10 minutes, and you would just have a whole stack of links that you've clicked on before. And then that way it would go left to right. So you would click here, and then that becomes solid. You would click there, and then the next bit, and then it would just keep going until your whole screen is covered. And that was always really fun to mess around with. Whoops.
Oh, that's great. So it seems like other people have done something similar. We time flies when you're talking about interactive fiction, apparently.
Yeah.
But this is another one of those. I hope what we did was valuable and showed you another tool if you haven't used it, or gave some ideas. Carson, thank you for joining us again. And
thanks for having me. I haven't talked about some of the stuff in years, so to be able to go back and look at it, it's like, wow.
Awesome. I want to spend. I wish I had more and more hours in a day to do all this stuff. Because now I want to write a text-based adventure. But what are we doing? So today, Mike, we still got to think a little bit about this afternoon. Oh no, we did. We're gonna play Splendor, right?
I think we're gonna play Splendor.
Right, and I think a couple of our buddies might join us. So we're gonna do a tabletop thing. Splendor, Brad, do you have it? Do you have the digital version of Splendor?
Brad, if you have Splendor, you can join us. Send me a DM.
Yeah. Brad,
so we're gonna play Splendor this afternoon. We're going to do the Gone Home game study is tomorrow at 3. Make sure you join us for that.
And
I've been watching that. It's really good. It's really
thanks.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't had the time to like type to respond to anything or do, but I've been watching the streams and checking in, and it's just awesome to see people play that and like sort of react to that, because that's another thing like I haven't touched in years, and like be like, oh my god, I remember how it all fits together. Like it's pretty awesome.
For sure. And tomorrow morning is our rescheduled date with Allison Levy from Brain Pop, who's going to talk about creative coding in Brain Pop, and it's going to continue our week of exciting narrative in games and that sort of thing. So join us, please, and tell all your Brain Pop friends, because everybody loves Brain Pop.
Right,
that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. I think that's it. I think
that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
That's everything. Thanks for everyone for joining us. Have yourselves a fabulous day.
Fabulous.
Yes.
And we'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.